Yeah.
Let me dip in and say hello.
Okay, my name's Lakai, and I'll be interviewing Ilya Grossman. Yes, he currently works at Firehouse Theater in Richmond, Virginia, and we're here to share a little bit more about himself and his story and how he works in the music industry in Richmond. So, yeah, let's begin. Okay.
Hello.
You want to introduce yourself or just tell us about your career so far?
So, okay, my name is Ilya Grossman. I've actually spent most of my career in the world of television, believe it or not, on the local news business. I worked for local Channel 8, which is the ABC affiliate, and I did that for a total of 18 years. And then I switched over to station up in D.C. for a couple of years. And then after that, I let my news career go by the wayside and had to reevaluate. Really, the bigger issue was that my mother, in 2015, had a stroke.
Oh, okay.
She had a pretty bad stroke and actually had 2 strokes within 1 week. So that kind of made me reevaluate my priorities as they were. And so I was looking for something that would be a little more flexible hour-wise. And I kind of talked to myself about what I really enjoyed about the television business. Mm-hmm. And what it really boiled down to is that I really enjoyed putting on a show. Okay. Because I was spent like 10 years in production, which is all about putting on a show.
Yeah.
So I kind of crystallized that idea, and then I was thinking of what I could do with that. And then I kind of shopped a couple of theaters, local theaters, and luckily enough, Firehouse picked up on what I was putting down. So, I mean, it was a good relationship. Recently, I had talked with you about that there's been some changes management-wise at Firehouse, so I've kind of looked into other opportunities in town that kind of utilize the same skill set. But that's in general kind of my CV, if you will, in terms of what I've come from and what I am doing now.
Okay, can you tell me more about your childhood and like your music experience there, and like how has it shaped you coming to like, or like being the person who puts on a show and production and like just wanting to be part of the music in general? Like, what made you think, okay, well...
So I myself play music. Okay. I was on the road in a band for 5 years.
What instrument did you play?
I'm a drummer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I played with a group, and we played up and down the East Coast. Mm-hmm. So even in my news business, when I was in news business, I always looked for opportunities to kind of insert music into the newscast. When I worked for ABC, we did some morning show stuff with musical acts. And then when I moved to the DC area, I also, every Friday, we would close out the evening with a local act in the DC area to just kind of close out the newscast. Mm-hmm. So music's always been a big part of my life. My mother was a piano teacher, and before her stroke, she was a very good piano player. So, I've always been attracted to music, and in general, that kind of translated into the business that I'm in now.
I know we kind of talked just off camera, but can you tell me more about your childhood and coming from Russia?
Yep, so I came from Russia. I was born there really. Okay. And then we moved to Israel, and then we lived there for a few years. And then from Israel, we came here to the States. So it's been a little bit of, I'm an immigrant. I've told you I've come to this great country to make something of myself. I tell people that as a true thing. And, it's a long journey. It's peaks and valleys and everything. But I'm pretty happy with where I'm at and what I'm doing right now.
Can you tell me more about your experience at Firehouse so far and like going into that space pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, what was it like just going into there and after being in broadcasting for 20 years? So
you want to know about the Firehouse after the pandemic scenario or before?
Post. Was you there before?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. Can you tell me more about the whole transition from pre then post?
Yeah, so it's a big thing, as you can imagine, especially in the theater business. We have Firehouses. I don't know if it's a very small theater. It only houses like 100 seats, so it's a pretty tiny theater. And it is not conducive for people that are freaking out about COVID, as you can imagine. So yes, it was challenging. The music scene had cut back substantially from the time that I was started. So I started around 2015, 2016, I believe. Maybe somewhere around, actually I think probably 2018 maybe. That sounds right, with Firehouse, maybe 20-something. Anyways, so yeah, when we started, I usually I got up to the point where I was booking like 2 to 3 acts a month, musical acts. And you can imagine we were peppering those throughout theatrical productions at Firehouse. So Firehouse is more known as a theater, not as a musical venue. I was kind of brought in there to kind of bolster their music scene. And, you know, like I said, pre-pandemic, we had a pretty good steady group of musicians come through Firehouse. Afterwards, it was a little more trickier. The gentleman who was running Firehouse at the time that I was working there, he made great lengths of trying to make people feel safe in the space, and he did a very good job at that. But it was still hard to persuade people to come out and play music because musicians were concerned about audience size and all that. So after the pandemic struck, I think I did put on a total of maybe 3 to 4 shows throughout the whole time that the rest of the tenure of the previous art director at Firehouse was there. So it's slowed down substantially.
Can you talk about our current, like the Gen Z generation? People are people normally going into now live music venues, or do you see like people just still attending, or is it all around the way like no one's really coming at all, or people are coming? It's just different generations who attend. So
yeah, it's I believe that in general, I think shows are a tricky business. Even when I was on the road, it's harder to miss a show, or it's easier for somebody to miss a show than to miss an event. You understand? So in general, what I booked at Firehouse were events. So they were bigger than shows. I always told people when I interacted with them about booking shows is that you want to make it to be something that's special, not just for the regular audience, but for other audiences that haven't seen them before. So you kind of have to expand on their own material. And I also told them that they need to think of Firehouse as a theater, and they need to utilize that as a possible another aspect to their show. So we had a lot of good shows that kind of utilized the stage. It also helped that the Firehouse Theater had productions on stage while the shows were on, so there'd be some random stuff on stage that the musicians could use as staging or as just a visual interest. So that kind of also added to the show, as opposed to just having 5 or 6 guys on stage playing instruments. So there's a visual aspect to it. That's why I'm always, when I talk to musical acts, I'm always trying to get them to think of a theater as a theatrical production. Even sometimes we had interaction with the audience. People would maybe talk about their music or talk about the origins of their music. I think your professor Andy McGraw came to our theater and did some stuff and did some wonderful shadow puppetry and stuff too. So he did 2 shows at our with me. So it was, things like that really got my juices flowing, especially if somebody came in with an idea of something specific for a theater.
What kind of events do you normally book at Firehouse, or who artists do you normally? Does it matter what genre?
No, I tend to gravitate towards avant-garde stuff, a little bit abstract, something unique. I'm a jazz guy, so I like jazz stuff. And so I booked a wide range of stuff. Everything from country, jazz, did some rock and roll, some jam stuff. My music is very eclectic, so it's not something one thing or another. Plus, I wanted to give a wide variety of people to come see the show.
Did it help Firehouse in general just to have a wide range of audiences?
It was. I think the music that I brought to Firehouse was very much appreciated. I think a lot of people gave me good feedback on it. Very proud. I think I put on a total of maybe 33 shows there, 34 shows there. So I'm very proud with the work that I did there. And I think in general, a lot of people gave me positive feedback. So I think they were happy with it.
That's good. What do you want your career to look like? You're starting out, it's not brand new, but you're still ahead of way. What do you think, what do you envision yourself being in like the next 5-10 years?
Ooh. Yeah. 5-10 years. That's I could probably look into 5 years ahead of me from now, but I mean, I'd like to develop more of a clientele of people that I can go to put on shows and have them reach out to me if they're looking for shows too. Like, the biggest thing that I've learned in my time in news and now in my time in the music biz is relationships, right?
Yeah.
If you don't build a good relationship with the individual or the group, and the group really needs to have a situation where when you say something, you got to make sure that you're doing it correctly. You know, and you got to make sure that you're holding up your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing that I've learned in the news and in the theater business is that there's a lot of people that promise that don't produce results. So I'm a big result producer guy. I want to make sure that I'm on time, I'm on deadline. I'm not a person, as you can see, if you text me, I will text you immediately back. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not a guy who, and that's a news habit. You understand? Because I've seen people. Hey, Brian, I'm being interviewed. I'll be in a second. But in general, the point is that when you're dealing with somebody and you want to be positive about what you're doing, you got to hold up your end of the bargain.
Yeah. So the follow through is very important.
Very important.
So what are some transferable skills that you have from news going into the music industry? Was it any different that you've seen? And then did COVID actually affect that as well? Just going from broadcasting to the music scene?
I mean, so I got out of the broadcast thing way before COVID hit.
Oh, okay. So wait, can you tell me about that time jump then? 'Cause
So it was like, the COVID happened probably as I was getting into the theater business. So like I said, my mom got her stroke in 2015. Winter of 2015. And then I was still at the news business 2016, 2017, and then I got into theater around 2017, 2018.
Okay.
So it was like a 2-year stint with the DC station, and then I did the theater. So the transition itself was not that different. The things that I really brought from the news into the theater world is consistency, being proactive, holding up your end of the bargain, making sure you communicate is very important. Artists in general tend to be flighty. They tend to be not very detail-oriented individuals. So I think they appreciate somebody who is, because they don't see that in themselves. And mind you, if they think you're annoying, because I get a lot of that, that you're sweating me about stuff. But I think on the back end, they're always appreciative of the fact that I kept them going in the right direction and make their show the best that they could. Because a lot of the promotional stuff that you have to bother people for, their bios, their pictures, all of the details of the show, the artists tend to think that's annoying and they don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
But if you don't deal with that on the back end, when they show up at the venue, they're going to be upset, and they're going to be upset at you. So you got to cut that out. You got to cut it off. Get your bud nippers out and nip it at the bud. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Can you tell me more about Ember and the live music venue you've seen so far in Richmond?
So Ember is a new joint. It's just opened up, and it's trying to bolster their music scene as well. I kind of, since Firehouse isn't having as much music as they did in the past, I kind of went knocking on a couple of doors. Ember was receptive, and I've been working on trying to put some music in there. I've not had any. It's a bigger venue, substantially. It's a 400-seat venue. Not seat, but 400-room venue. So it requires a certain group to fit that space. I have some groups that would fit that space, but they're busy doing things, yada yada. So this other venue, basement's smaller than Firehouse. It's actually 70 seats. It's a smaller place, but it's a really cool spot, and it's really kind of conducive for a lot of the music that I represent.
So you're talking about the basement, which hasn't opened yet in Richmond.
It's open today.
It's open today?
Today.
Okay,
Today's
great.
the first day. I'll be going there later after that.
Oh, really?
Right.
I actually want to check it out. It actually looked cool. I was on the website and I was like, okay, actually.
Today's the first night.
Okay, great. Can you tell me about the scene so far in Richmond in general? You haven't been here for that long.
I've been here a long time.
Okay. Oh, wait. How long have you been in Richmond then?
I went to VCU, so I'm a graduate of VCU. So I've been here for quite some time. Has the music scene changed, is your question?
Yes. Has the music scene changed? At least a live version of it as well?
Yeah, music is always a fluid thing. Back when I was hitting the streets, as they say. I mean, it was like more of a hippie jam kind of stuff. Dave Matthews was very big when I was around. Still big now, but he was kind of starting out when I was doing my thing. So it was kind of a different thing. I think music is always evolving into something unique, and sometimes it's very cyclical too. It comes back around. Music comes back around too. So I think there's a little bit of both. I think it's changed, but I think sometimes when things change, they stay the same.
Do you like how Richmond scene is looking so far?
Yeah, I've always appreciated music from Richmond. Richmond's got a good music school at VCU, so they produce a lot of good players. VCU Jazz School is very good. A lot of the musicians that I work with have come from that school, so we're very lucky here to have a lot of good musicians.
Let me write some questions now. Okay, since we're talking about Richmond, how has your music environment shaped into you, Okay, how has your musical environment shaped the way you create and hold space for music in general?
Well, and like we talked about before, is that, my show is very specific about the venue that I'm performing in. So, I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not so much a show as it is an event. So, I mean, we put on a lot of good shows that have visuals to them. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of visual aspects to music, because I think a full sensory kind of experience for somebody is much more interesting than just listening. Now, there's some music that lends itself to just sitting and listening to, and that's why I really appreciated Firehouse Theater for that, because it's a sitting venue. It's a theater. So, I mean, my feeling is that a lot of the music that comes through, the people that are performing that music, they appreciate the fact that sometimes they can slow it down and have people listen to what they're doing, as opposed to just being, in a bar setting where people are constantly moving around and not really paying attention, So the opportunity for musicians to be heard and not just background is a really important thing, I think, as well.
Can you tell me about the process of you being a producer versus being a music creator?
So in Firehouse, everybody's a producer. Okay. That's the title that they give everybody. Oh, okay. So I don't think it's so much specific to that. Everybody's a producer. The music curator part of it was specific to me because I was the guy who knew the music scene here in Richmond. So it was easier for me to communicate with people in the business.
So you book events and book events and shows, and then you do that for all three spaces.
Yeah.
How important is the venue to the artist? Like, if the artist does it make or break who you're booking?
Yes. So it's very important to, like I said, to be specific when you're dealing with groups and try to keep it in a positive side of things. Also, to make them aware that you're not in the business to screw them over. Mm-hmm. It's a big part. Firehouse is a nonprofit. Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's not a situation where we're looking to make a whole lot of money. And if the musician is trying to do that, I need to be upfront with them that that's not going to be a place where you're going to be able to do that. So I think honesty is a big part of the venue, and it's also important to be real with them about what you're going to get from this show. Because anytime you try to be vague about things, that's where problems happen, and people get upset. And my objective is to have a good show for the venue and for the artist. That's my main objective. Answer.
Can you tell me more about the day in your life, how you just go about booking shows and just...
It's a lot of emails, a lot of communicating in emails, and making sure you follow up on people's needs that they need. They need certain graphics or our website. So you kind of the intermediary between the whole thing to actually make sure the show goes off without a hitch. So if you do it right, the day of the show, you shouldn't be doing a heck of a lot. You should be just sitting there managing, making sure everything is going the way you planned it to. So pregame, and that comes from the news business too, because I worked the morning shift for 10 years. That means you got to be at work at 2:30 in the morning. Your show kicks off at 4. Yeah, it's brutal. I did it for 10 years, never was late once.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was brutal. It was rough. Now I had other people that were late, but me, I was never late. So I mean, that's the thing. So I kind of brought that attitude towards this business as well. Professionalism, detail oriented, making sure you follow up, and making sure you do what you said you would.
Oh yeah, can you talk about how you the drumming part? When do you start playing the drums? And
I was a band guy. I played in the band, high school band, middle school band. I played a lot of brass instruments, and then I also switched over to drumming. And I've always been a guy who enjoyed percussion. Brian, I'm gonna go get a drink. Brian's inside.
Brian.
Hennessy.
Oh, nice. I'm Sean.
I'm Lakaya. How are you?
Lakaya, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, thank you. I'll leave you to your. Yeah.
I'll be in just a second. I promise. Where were we?
Band. You're in band.
Right.
And you switched over to drumming.
Right. So I was a drummer. I played some drums. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy playing drums. I'm not as I don't have as much time as I did in the past to do it.
So
to be true.
Do you think you had more time? You actually pick up the drums again and actually start
I might.
playing?
With this new opportunity at these other venues, there might be opportunity for me to start playing again. But that's a side thought. Like I said, my priorities kind of changed after my mom had a stroke. So it's very involved when your parents are sick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been very challenging for me. So that is something I'm still figuring out, if you will. As a person who gets to that age where you have to take care of your parents, I'll tell you that is a life-changing event. That more than any other job you'll ever have or anything is when your parents get sick. That's when life changes.
So how much has your mom influenced the way that you work? Because you said when you first started...
Hours. I have very limited hours that I can give to the work. So, I mean, as you see, I gave you the specific times that I'm available because I have to have a nurse to sit with my mom.
Okay.
Because I can't leave her alone. So my times are very structured and very limited. So that's the big difference. I have no time to myself. My time to myself is spurts of 3 to 4 hours.
Oof.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's not easy.
Wait, so what about your father? Do you have any siblings?
I have a brother and sister. I'm the youngest.
Okay.
They are both married and with children.
Mm-hmm.
They live out of state. My father passed this year.
Oh, no.
That's okay. But he lived abroad as well. So my brother and sister need to do more to help out. I will say that on record. But they don't as much as I would care for them to do. But it is what it is. I'm not a guy who complains about things. I'm a stoic when it comes to things. I deal with the way things are. I try to deal with them.
This is a lot. Okay, can you talk about playing in like some local bands? I think you played with like Stone Kitchen and like some other bands. Can you tell me more about that experience of being on the side of it?
Like being a musician?
Yeah, like being a musician.
It's brutal. So it's a fun thing to do as a young person because it's a great way to meet people, and it's a great way to see the world and see the country, as it were. We didn't go abroad, but we did travel up and down the East Coast. Some highlights where we played up in New York City. We did a couple of New York City gigs, which was really exciting, and then we did some stuff all up and down the East Coast, down in Florida and parts of Georgia and parts of North Carolina. So I mean, the music scene is really tricky. The one thing I took away from it is that there's a lot of bad people in the music business. Mean people that are not in it for the music, but in it for the money. And I'm really trying my hardest not to be that individual to other people because that wasn't a pleasant experience for me. I'll tell you a story.
Yeah, tell me more about that experience.
So I'll tell you a story. This place will remain nameless, but there was a venue down in North Carolina, which I was kind of the manager of the band as well, business-wise, which is a tricky business to be a business guy and a musician. That's a very hard dynamic to deal with because you have to deal with your musician buddies, but you also have to deal with them telling them that they're not going to make a lot of money for this really big show. So there's always that. But there was this one venue down in North Carolina. So I've been working on this venue for probably 2 years. We finally got down there. He had promised us X amount of money for the show. It was a good night for them. I think I remember it was a well-attended show. But at the end of the show, when I went to the person that I was supposed to go to collect the money that he had promised me, it wasn't there. So I had gotten upset about that and just got to the point where I was like, I want to talk to the individual who promised me this money. And then that individual came out and he was in a wheelchair. And I was like, I couldn't get mad at him because he was handicapped and he was angry about his situation. He was angry with everybody in that building. So I was like, I'll never play that venue again. But it's still around today, and it's still run by the same guy. So I mean, it goes to show you that a lot of people in the business take a lot of crap from people just because they want to play the venue. So that's unfortunate, and I don't want to be that individual. I'm trying to be a different type of producer, if you will.
So can you tell me more about the touring in different venues? Like, does the venue, how important is the venue? I just want to know, like, how important is the venue that you're playing? Like,
Very important.
Is it like making or breaking an
No,
artist?
so there's no venue that will make an artist.
Yeah.
That's never the case. But there are venues that are helpful to artists.
Okay.
So that's the key. And I understand that from my own time on the road, is that there isn't any one venue that's going to catapult you to stardom. That's not going to be a thing. It's hard work. It's hard work that really pays off. And perseverance. It's hard work, perseverance. And if you love it, then that's all that really matters. Now there's a life that you can live, that you can keep doing that same thing. Sooner or later, somebody gets to a point where they don't want to do it because it's too hard, taking too much time, not enough financial rewards, and that's where bands break up. It's because the reality of the situation just settles in.
Is it harder being in a band versus being solo?
I believe that's probably true because you're just dealing with more people. But then you have a motivation factor. You got to motivate yourself, to do art. Some people have that. Some people don't. So I think it goes both ways. But I would think that it would be easier just to motivate yourself than motivating 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah. What is age? How big of an aspect does age play? Like, do you think if you started your career, or like you stopped working in news earlier and then you went ahead and being in music, do you think it'll change your trajectory or like how involved you are?
I mean, it might have been something that I could have, you get more time underneath your belt kind of thing. But I mean, I just think it's just the more positive work that you're doing and the more positive interaction you're having with individuals. Like I said, it's those relationships that's really going to build your reputation and your career, especially as a producer or as a music person. Because I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that have said, I don't want to work with that because he's a jerk. I mean, straight up. I mean, that's the bottom line. You get to a certain point if you're a musician in your career that you only want to work with people that you're having a good time with,
Yeah. Okay, let me look some more questions up here. Is there anything you want to tell us, like upcoming artists or people who are starting to get in the venue, and how does social media play an important role in your job?
So social media, I think, is very good. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of using social media, but not having social media use me. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, use it as an advertising platform. I think that's all very good. And I think building, a group of people that follow you is all fine and good. And I think it has its place in advertising and getting the word out. I'm just not sure and I might be an old timer where it comes to, showing off music through digital space. I don't know if that's really as prominent as they think that it should be. The digital, world, in terms of sending somebody like a link to Bandcamp or Spotify for one of their shows or one of their just to get a feel for the shows. I mean, I think it has its place. I just don't know if it's as big a as big a thing as the live performances?
Well, from my end, I'm on social media all the time. If I see a show or see how someone performs, then it's like, oh, it makes you want to go even more. Like, you have,
It's a reminder.
Yeah, it's a reminder. Like, oh, I need to go.
Right.
Whenever they're back, I want to go. Like, I have an artist named. Well, I like this artist named Ari Lennox, and she's up my alley. I love her music and everything, but I never seen her live. So when I see all like the concerts and all the things, I'm like, okay, I need to go. Whenever she's in town, I'm buying the ticket because it just makes me go even more. So
I think that's a true thing about social media. It's a good way to get information out. And mind you, every time that I book a show, I do all the Insta, all the Facebook, all the Twitter stuff. And that's you got to do that as a bodily function. You got to do that on a regular basis. That's also consistency. That goes back to the conversation about consistency.
Is there anything else you want to share?
I'm good. Are you good?
Wait, hold on. Oh, okay. Can you tell me more about... Oh, okay, so how do you benefit from music in general? Besides your job, like, do you get any... like
spiritual?
Yeah.
Sure. I live with music all the time. So in my house, music is always playing. I like to be turned on to new music. I'm a big fan of new music. People that come up with new stuff. I mean, I'm a guy who's been in New York and been to shows where it's just a cat banging on a drum for an hour and a half.
A cat?
No, like a cat, meaning like a dude.
A guy. I'm like, say a cat.
Like a cat. That's a hip term for a musician. Anyways, yeah, so to me, it's like everything has a place. Now, I've been with people that would walk out of a show like that, but I'm always interested to see how the musician is dealing with, his performance.
Does the place like, you talk about a lot in New York. Can you tell me more about that space versus being in Richmond or being in the other places on the East Coast?
New York is a different animal in general. We played a place called the Bitter End, which is a well-known place. It's right by NYU. Bob Dylan played there. A lot of really famous people played there, and it's a really small venue. So that's why I kind of approached it. Now the guy was very receptive. So what New York clubs love is to have out-of-town bands come in. Mm-hmm. They'll pay you absolutely nothing, or they'll play a game with you where they'll say, "Yeah, you can come play with us," but we'll ask at the door, "Who are you coming to see?" Now, if you're not known in New York, they're not going to see you. So you walk out of that place after dragging your stuff all the way up to New York, and you walk out of that place with $100. So I mean, and that's your life for a while until you build up an audience. That's what it's all about. In New York, it's all about your audience. How many people come to see you? Not coming to see not coming into the venue, but coming to see you. And that's very different in Richmond, right? So in Richmond, if you're coming into the venue, they're going to assume that you're coming to see the band. And if there's 3 bands, they're not going to cut off money from the other 2 bands if you're only going to see that one band. You understand? So it's a different philosophy in New York because they know that it's the Big Apple and they know that they got millions of musicians and millions of cats that play there. I also was a reality check for me as a musician, as a drummer, who thought was pretty good. Going up to New York and seeing other guys playing drums, which are way better than you, it makes you humble. It makes you realize that you're just part of a group of people that just enjoy playing music. So don't ever go into the business thinking you're going to be the best. Just think that you're going to enjoy what you do.
So how much does enjoying plays a part in like how you motivate yourself? Because I know a lot of people, I mean, especially when you're younger, you want to like, I want to like do the absolute best that I can. And then you get there and you start actually doing it and it's like, okay, it's getting hard. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well then you keep practicing, you keep doing what you have to do. And then it's like, okay, well, when is it time to like, go to something different or pivot?
That's up to you. It's an individual choice. Everybody's different. I've known cats. Sorry, I've known people.
Go ahead. You said cats. I know what I mean. I mean,
I've known guys and cats, as it were, that have been in the business, gotten out of the business, went back into the business, and being musicians. I mean, so I mean, I think it's like everything else. If you enjoy it so much, you'll find a place for it in your life if you have to, if you want it.
If you could think of like anything, like what is like the absolute perfect music industry will actually look like? Like, would you think it would be better if musicians actually got paid when you did go to certain venues, and
Yeah.
like, would it be actually better, or like, do you think the representation or just the representation or just how people perceive the music industry, do you think it would be better if musicians actually got paid and it wasn't one of those, oh, you're a starving artist until you make it big type of?
Yeah, it's hard. So it's being a musician and being an artist, and this is a ancient problem. Musicians, artists in general, have always been underappreciated until they become famous or they become, well known or something. So I don't think there's an answer to how to make the industry better. All you can do is, if you're in the industry, try to make what you do better and how you interact with individuals better, because it's once again the relationships that you establish with these musicians that will ultimately help you as a profession and them as a musician.
How do you think, what does the show actually look like? How involved are you in the show making and process, and how many people do you work with?
So people have asked me to help out in putting together their show. So, at Firehouse, we had a couple of visual shows. I concepted one show where it was a musician playing along with an artist painting and videos, trying to really stretch out the visual aspects of music. That was a concepted show that I came up with, and then I found artists to kind of fit into my idea. But mostly it's them. It's their ideas. I kind of give them the space and let them work with it. With this news venues, they're a little more challenging because they're a little more smaller, a little more bar-like, so it's not so much theatrical. But I think there's going to be wonderful things happening in those places too.
What do you think the basement will be like?
I'm hoping it'll be a cool jazz club. I'm hoping to make it that.
Oh, okay. So, do you already have some things some people?
I got 2 shows booked.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, great. Can you tell me more about the shows that are going to be booked?
I have a show coming up on the 30th of this month. It's a fado show. Fado is a type of music from Portugal, I believe, Spain.
That sounds interesting.
It's very passionate music. It's a lot sung by women in dark places with very interesting instruments. So that's happening on the 30th. And then we have a jazz group coming in on December 8th.
Okay, great. Do you think your music taste actually helped you be better in the space that you're in now, being a producer and a music career?
Yes.
So because you listen to a lot of music and you're always open, do you think that helped you get a lot of clientele versus then when you're starting out? Well, are you starting out in the music industry late? In terms of your time?
I don't know what's late or early. I'm here. I'm doing it. So my feeling is that it's very challenging as a musician to do anything. So anytime you show up and bring me something, I'm going to try to see what it is. See what there's been things that I passed on. Don't get me wrong. But in general, if you have an idea and a concept, I'm willing to give you a try.
Can you share some things that you passed on?
Usually it's cover band stuff. Okay. I don't like cover bands so much. Even though when I was in a group, we did it when we played fraternity houses, just because you kind of have to do it. But I tend to try to stay away from that kind of stuff. Unique music is what I'm all about.
So do you have control over who you get to pick and choose to come in? Are you a sort of a gatekeeper in terms of?
So that's how it works. Yeah. So that's what the music curator does. He's curating. He's picking the music that will be in the show. So that's kind of been the thing. Yes, so I kind of do that.
So this week, okay. So because you're the one picking the music, do you also kind of influence how the venue's actually perceived or their representation? Not the representation. Their what is the word?
What are you looking for? So you're talking about how they're seen by the musicians?
Not seen by the musicians, but by people who are local. So let's say if the basement becomes known for it to be eclectic, probably South American music, jazz, then will that actually make it stick to the venue? Does that?
Do you think the music that you choose identifies the venue? And I don't know if that's if you stick to one type of music, maybe that's the case. But I'm all over the place. So I'm so eclectic. They can't pin you down. I don't like that, and I think people like that, especially if I do something on a regular basis. I don't make it too regular.
Okay.
Once a month, maybe twice a month.
And it's for offering the spaces, or it's just making sure that it's always different sounds
right.
and noises. Okay, great. Whew. Can you tell me more about do you think there's anything known as too early or too late in the music industry, or because of the way like your position, do you think that's always like it doesn't matter what age you start as long as you get your foot in the door?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, if you get your foot in the door and do a good job, be consistent, be honest, and be a person of your word, because that's the hardest thing in the business. And I can't tell you how many people I've thanked in my past that held up to their end of the bargain, said that they're going to be where they're going to be. It's so hard for people to do. It's ridiculous, but it's so hard for people to do. If you do that, you can be successful 98% of whatever job you do.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever booked with artists who didn't have their were just starting out and did that? Also, were they young, were they older, or was there in between, or it really doesn't matter?
I worked with a group called Creative Space, which was a bunch of young kids, rap, they're like rap and stuff. So I mean, I gave them the venue. They did a great job, very high energy. So yeah, I've worked with young kids. Now, once they're flighty, they tend to not get your stuff that you want from them on time. They're bad on graphics, bad on bios, bad on pictures. But when they show up, they put on a good show. So you kind of have to massage their badness to being somewhat useful until you get to the good part, which is their performance. Now, I've reached out to them again since my last interaction with them, and they've broken up because of some sort of drama that they got going on. But, I told them if they ever get together, like, give me a call. And they were like, I'll definitely do that because we had a good relationship.
What about any older artists? Can you tell the difference between artist development depending on the ages that they are or what stage they are in their lives? Can you
That's
tell,
really hard to say. It's really hard to do because there's old guys that suck and there's new guys that suck. And suck is a relative term, but I'm saying that it's not my cup of tea kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't think age has anything to do with it. I think it's passion. I think it's motivation, drive, persistence. Yeah, all that.
Yeah, because I never seen older people with gray hair. No offense, be successful. Not be successful, but I never seen them on the forefront in terms of popular music artists or people you're starting to hear, or even new artists. Because I always listen to new people and new sounds, but I don't ever see no one older it's not getting 50s and up. No, I never seen no one 50s and up.
Mary J. Blige is old,
but she's been in the music industry forever, 90.
So she's still,
90s,
yeah, so she's still singing songs from the 90s, right?
Yeah, because the thing is,
she'll come out with some new stuff sooner or later, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's not about that, but I was saying getting your foot in the door early. A lot of artists, I never see them start their music business in when they're 40 years old. Probably acting, but never in music. It's always they either start very 20s, or 30s, probably.
Well, that's when you have time to do it. You understand? Yeah. When you get older, you don't have time to do it. You got stuff start happening to you, and it's hard to find space to do stuff that you really want to do, or you have fun doing it.
How much space, in terms of space, do you think that's very important? Having the time for you to actually develop and create. Do you think because you took how much space did you take before you transitioned from the news to being in Firehouse? Did you take a lot of space to create your taste?
No, I mean I was dealing with my mom at that time, so I was dealing with all that. So I was in my head a lot, just dealing with that problem. And like I said, I have good conversations with myself about what I can do and what I can't do. So, I mean, it's good to be honest with yourself. So, I mean, the transition from news to theater wasn't really all that big a difference to me because it was still putting on a show. A show to me is a show. Doesn't mean as long as you make sure there's no huge mistakes. A news director a long time ago told me it's a very smart thing because I used to direct news. I used to punch the news during the show, so it's a very high stress job, and I used to be stressed out all the time at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. But this one very older, smarter news director gave me a bit of wisdom, which I will share with you, which is, the newscast comes on at 6 o'clock. 6:30 is going to come anyways, no matter what you do. So it's going to end. You got to live with yourself after that. So that's a very important thing. You can stress yourself out for all the hours that happens before the show and after or during the show, but it's going to end, and you got to live with yourself after that. So it's very important to keep it all in perspective. You know, if you make a mistake, try to not beat yourself up too much about it. Know that you can try to make a better job next time.
How did you get your foot in the door between going to theater? Like, how was it an easy process? Or did you already know somebody in the industry who was going to get you?
I knocked on the door. I literally just knocked on the door.
Literally, like
on Firehouse.
Firehouse. Like,
yeah.
It was like
I walked up, and I was lucky.
Okay, I was saying like
I was lucky because the guy who was running the theater was having some audio issues with the group or the theatrical production that he was doing at the time, and I was a kind of a well-rounded audio guy and helped him out, and I kind of took the bull by the horns and kind of showed him what you need to do, and he was very impressed with that, and that's why he offered me the position as
so you
music
literally
curator.
had like a whole shindig, like, oh, you need me and your team type of thing.
No, I walked in there and just showed them what they need to do, because I took the attitude of the news and I brought it to theater, and it's in theater they're kind of lackadaisical, theatrical drama, and in the news business you got to get stuff done. You got to get on the air at 5 o'clock in the morning. So all that crap that you're dealing with right now, you got to put that aside and get it done. So I kind of put that attitude towards, and the people appreciated that. Some didn't. Some people did.
Does being on the news and how you carry yourself, does it make good relationships most of the time? And like, what times that hasn't made a good
in the news business?
I mean, like transitioning from like the news to like now being in the music industry. You talk about how like artists sometimes like, oh, this dude is not it because he does this. But you said at the end of the day they appreciate it. So when has your work not been appreciated?
I mean, it's difficult when you're dealing in a creative capacity, when you're dealing with other creatives individuals, because everybody's got an opinion of what it should look like. So I mean, that's always a challenge that you got to deal with in terms of how you deal with other creative people in the business. But I always fall back to the position of listen to what they're saying. You know, don't always think that you're right. Listen to what they're saying and try to incorporate that into what you're kind of thinking of doing. So don't dismiss them outright, because creative people tend to be more sensitive. The news people, not so much. You know, it's a little different.
So is it more so?
We got 5 minutes.
No, we don't. Oh, wow. No, it's 45 minutes.
Oh, we're done.
Okay. Wait, no. I have more.
I got a drink in there.
Okay. I'm gonna end it off.
Okay.
Can you share any? Well, you already shared some advice, but just want any final thoughts that you have about just being in the music industry and then just like being in Richmond specifically, and then seeing how it's growing and changing.
If you want to be in the music business, you gotta love music. That's it. That's bottom line.
And it doesn't matter where you're at.
No, it doesn't matter, because you gotta love playing music. That's what it's really that's the bottom line. Because if you don't do that, it's just going to be a pain in the neck for you.
And what about people who want to be a producer or music creator? What is that like? What advice do you have for those people?
Relationships, be kind, be smart. You know, like I said, be a person of your word. And even if it's hard for you to do it, don't put it off. Go ahead and do it, because it'll build a relationship that will help you in the long run.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Let's hope this audio is not messed up.
It's like, hey, we gotta do it all over.